Okay, good evening, friends. I hope I'm audible. Okay, so in the last class, we were having a look at industrial organizational psychology. Okay, so it is very important that as part of your management chain, that everybody is happy. There's a saying that a chain is as strong as its weakest link. Okay, so if suppose you're going to find one part of your chain unhappy, in this case it could be even your labor workforce. It can be somebody who's in the management, what we call as mid management. It may even be somebody in the top management. In fact, I had one video of the LinkedIn president speaking to his staff after the devaluation of its shares. So the moment the shares of a company fall, it means that the chances the people are not trusting that business. So he comes into the front, he talks to the people, he motivates them, basically. So the way he is speaking is going to give confidence to the people under him, right to the bottommost level. Okay, so we also see that many of the factors are there which make a person happy. So some of them do include your perks as salary and other things. And other there are besides that there are other factors also which are there which make a person happy to work for the organization. One of the things which we also have to see is the ergonomics in the workplace. What do you mean by ergonomics in the workplace? The way you provide for the people a comfortable environment. Okay, for instance, if suppose you are being asked to sit in a bench which is very constrained, okay, you have to sit like just ramrod straight, you cannot bend, you cannot relax, and stuff like that is going to make you very uncomfortable just sitting in the class. Sitting in class becomes like a punishment. Your back is aching, everything is aching. You're more concerned about how to make yourself feel comfortable. The same thing happens also to construction workers, okay, or the people with whom you are interacting in this particular context. Okay, so what sort of environment you give plays a very big role in what you get back from your people. Okay, so it also means that you're going to give them a safe place to work in. You're going to give them a safe place to work in. Okay, now, so this is some of the things which we have seen about. And one of the I think yeah one of the very important thing which I'd like you also to think is people advertise for the jobs. So if you are looking at a job ad like Superman, are you going to say, yes, this is my job? Okay, Superman or Superwoman, I'm going to be a little gender neutral, but this is something which I wish you will think of right now. Okay, people want the best. Okay, the person who's wanting to go for an employment, he seeks the best. The person who's giving the employment, he also seeks the best. Okay, right. Now, one of the I had a very interesting conversation with one of your friends yesterday. So when I asked him, he told me he wants to work in construction management. But when I asked, what do you mean by construction management? There was a lot of blanks. Okay, how many of you are here who say, I don't know much about construction management? Okay, great. Okay, I got a short presentation here from you. Of course, it's not my presentation. I am borrowing it. It gives a very good idea as to what construction management is. Video, please. Yeah.
Ever looked up at a skyscraper and wondered, who built this? An architect? An engineer? A builder? Well, yeah, all of these people play a role in designing and constructing a building. A project like this needs a team of hundreds of people, and like any great team, they need a leader. In fact, a project this huge needs a whole team of leaders. Let me introduce you to a few of them. Let's say a property developer has already selected the site and decided that it's ideal for a brand spanking new skyscraper.
Yeah.
Where do we start? Call in the bulldozers and start preparing the site? Pour the concrete? Hold on, this is a huge project. We need to do a little planning first. So we've appointed Kim as Senior Project Manager,
Hi.
the leader of our team of leaders. Kim's got years of experience in this game. She'll map out the whole process from start to finish. Who else? Well, there's Max, our design manager, who works with the architect and the engineer to design the perfect building. It's got to be beautiful, it's got to be functional, it's got to be really, really tall, and it's got to stay up. Max is pretty important. Without him on board, we could end up with a really dodgy building. Max gives the plans to Jamie, our quantity surveyor. He figures out how much it's all going to cost. It takes a huge pile of cash to build something on this scale. But without Jamie keeping an eye on the bottom line,
How you doing?
it could take a massive pile of cash. Jamie works closely with Steve, the construction scheduler.
Hi.
Steve's job is to figure out how long everything's going to take. Like, if it takes 10 workers 2.5 years to build a 20-storey building, how long will it take 50 workers to build a 120-storey building? Never mind. Let's just say that without Steve it will take a really, really long time. What next? Don't we need some cranes and bulldozers? How about a plumber, painter and an electrician? We sure do. That's why Amy, our contract manager, is organising all the contractors, the people who do all the hands-on stuff.
Hi.
Without Amy, well, not much would happen at all. Now we're ready to get started. Bring on the bulldozers, pour the concrete, and lay the footings. Up go the columns, in go the slabs, on goes the cladding, and that's pretty much it. We just need to connect the utilities, paint a few walls, tile some floors, and voila. One skyscraper delivered right on schedule. That last bit can take quite a while, anywhere between a few months and 2 years actually. But don't worry, Kim was keeping an eye on things the whole time, making sure everyone did their job safely. Without her, who knows where we could have ended up. What do you think? Want to join this exciting team? Perhaps you're cut out for a career in construction management. The perks? Well, the prospects are great. In 2010, 96% of our University of Newcastle students were employed on graduation. And how about a graduate salary of $50,000 to $80,000? But what do Kim, Max, Jamie, Amy and Steve love best about their jobs? At the end of the day, they get to say, I built this.
Okay, so did that give you an idea as to what a construction manager does? So basically a lot of things are going in. If you look at it, first and foremost, the builder who identifies where he is going to do a work, he is the first point of contact. Normally that might be the buyer. So that's why we were talking like, we don't know where you're going to be, whether you're going to be on the buyer side or whether you're going to be a contractor. Buyer is going to give the money. He has to know whether he has enough money to do the project which he wants to do. So that's one part. And this was covered in your lecture on budgetary sanctions of budgets, if you remember. So you have two sides. The buyer, he sees, and the project manager essentially does a lot of things in terms of controlling who does what, or whether everybody is doing their work correctly. Okay, who does what? People know. There's a contracts manager, there's a person who's looking at the finance, there's a person who's looking at the quantities, there's a person who's looking at the designs, and then finally there's a person who goes around wiring up the building, putting the air conditioners. You suppose you're building a hall like this, ensuring the paneling, the soundproofing, and screens of this sort is done. So basically the project manager ensures everybody is having what they require at the right time, in the right quantity. Anything less, your building is going to have something awkward. One half is painted, other side is not painted. Okay, if you're having too much of material, you bought something which you're going to waste. So this is where your cost is going to get exceeded. Okay, so quantity surveyor, the cost, the person who's looking at the finance, and also the design engineer, all these people do play a very important role in ensuring that a project is going to time and also is going to make a profit. End of the day, everybody wants a profit. The person who's buying also wants to get a profit. He buys the product, he uses it and tries to make a lot of money out of it. The contractor, he constructs something and then he makes money out of it. Okay, so these are some of the things with which we do. Now coming back, in this lecture we are going to have a look at some of the essence of the labor laws. Okay, I'm very specific because the number of labor laws are so huge that even if we sit and talk, we will be at the most able to, like, the whole, maybe we can have a course, a BSc or BTech, sort of management course for 2 years only to cover the labor laws. So anyway, why do we need these labor laws? Because all our work is being done by manual laborers. And what is this manual laborer? This was defined by our campus engineer, Mr. Engineer Ramakrishnan, when he came to our class. Okay. Now, this is taken from the this whatever I'm having here. It's taken from the Labor Acts link which I have given to you earlier. Okay. Now, these are the main reasons why we have the labor laws. Okay. First and foremost, we need a legal framework as to what you can do, what you cannot do. Okay. And then it also gives a mechanism for interaction. Do you know there is going to be a railwayman strike? So they have placed their demands. So there is a set of rules how you can even strike work. You cannot say I'm striking work because I don't like probably the food that was served today. You cannot do that. There is a rule and procedure. So first you have to say there is a notice to strike. You then say it to your management. Then you have to convey to the other. There are people appointed by law for various kinds of agencies, like like particular trades. So they have to go to those bodies and tell them that we are striking, and after that only such a strike will be termed as a legal strike. Okay, so of course in our country now you can go to the court, you can get stay orders against people trying to strike. That is also there. And also there is it is also one mechanism by which you don't paralyze the system. You got a grievance against somebody, so you're expressing that grievance in a very orderly manner. Okay, in spite of that not happening, then you're it's okay to strike your work. Okay, so this is what we mean by saying that it serves, when you are having the framework, it serves as a vehicle for expressing it. Okay, and it also tells you what is guaranteed. Okay, so what is socially acceptable? Okay, if suppose I'm going to strike work, if I'm telling, and then in spite of my demands, okay, reasonable demands not being listened, and you strike work, probably people will not mind it. But just like that, at the drop of a hat, if people do it, then we people may not actually agree that it is done. And also, like to ensure that all these rights are being enforced, we have this legal framework. Okay, so these are the categories of labor laws. Okay, in our country you got four kinds. There is a kind where the central government sets it and also enforces it, like the Trade Union Act and stuff like that. Then there are some things which are set by central government but it's enforced by the state government. And then the other thing is set by central government and it's enforced by the respective state governments. Okay, so now all these headings, all these classification and what are the rules which are under these are all covered in that Labor Act booklet. Okay, which you can download freely and refer it up. Okay, so these are some of the major things which we cover. These are the major things which we cover. For instance, there is something called Minimum Wages Act. What does this Minimum Wages Act do? It ensures that irrespective of the job, you do, or I can't say irrespective of the job, if the job is able to pay an employee. See, for example, if you're going to have 100 rupees worth of work only, you will not be able to pay 1,000 rupees to the employee. Okay, so this is what is the basis for this Minimum Wages Act. So probably it is one of the reasons why we have high paying jobs in IT sector, because that industry is able to absorb the wage bill. Okay, I remember one of the lectures where our chancellor was speaking about VIT university at its initial stages. So he was saying the wage bill was a few lakh rupees, 3 lakhs or something, for all the people who are working in VIT. So at that time, when we say the minimum wages, I mean, like, so this is a burden for the university to bear. It is something which it has to do. So you see, the industry should be able to pay that amount of wages. So this will be like one of the guiding principle when you look at the Minimum Wages Act. Then there is this Workman Compensation Act. Okay, so things like that mean if a laborer gets has some, you can have some disability. They call it like partially disabled. Then they have various classification, and also there's death. Okay, so for each of this, what is the compensation that has to be paid? Who is responsible in the event of an accident? Sometimes there will be it will be clearly a mistake of the employee, but in spite of that, these acts protect the workmen also. Okay, so so what sort of insurance we have to take, what sort of measures which we have to do to ensure. For example, there's something called provident fund. Okay, so the moment you join any company, the company is expected to give a provident fund. So if you are starting your own business, then you will have to think of giving your employees the benefit of the provident fund. Again, this provident fund is a burden to you, because what happens, a portion of that money which is there is contributed by the employee, the rest is contributed by the employer. Okay, so these are all things like, which you should be aware of. You cannot tell the labor inspector when he comes, I was unaware of such a law being in existence. Okay, so for the construction industry, there is a specific set of rules, like how many hours you can make them work, what sort of work you can engage, and who can be engaged in certain rules. Okay, so then so these are the directive principles. The first is the health and strength of the people employed. So person who's employed for a particular task, he should be fit to do the job. Then the other important thing is the prevention of child abuse. The fundamental principle is, in that formative age, everybody should have the right to develop themselves on a certain platform. Like for instance, the Right to Education Act has been implemented. Whether it's being followed or not, that is beside the point. But in any case, that is something which we should be aware of. Probably in the next few years, when you go as site engineers, you may be in a very great hardship site, but then the government will make a rule. You have to ensure that all the children in your site are to be educated. So you will be asked to take certain steps. Are you going to bring a teacher here to your site and teach them and prove that their children have got some learning, or are you going to send them to a hostel? So many things are there which you may have to think about. Okay, so why am I bringing this point out? This point is brought out because you should be aware that certain things are mandated by law. Law says you should do it, so it has to be done. Okay, then again, there is something like, there are many instances where people have been kept as bonded laborers. Okay, it was supposedly very common in the brick kilns, in the stone quarries. In all these places, you will hear that people were kept under very bad conditions and stuff like that. Okay, so they may have got into that situation because they might have taken a loan, they wouldn't have been able to pay it. Okay, so now as people of the construction industry, we are also asked to take care of such people, and of course provide just and humane working conditions. And other thing is, when you are having a trade union, one of the things that happens is, you are, as an employee, you are being given an opportunity to raise your concerns to the management. There is a means, there is a mechanism where you sit. It's something like your QC meeting. Okay, you have this QC meeting where you give your viewpoints about probably my teaching to the management, right? Hey, come on here. Yes, no? Okay, so in the same way, there is a mechanism which is provided for employees to raise their concerns against the employee. So there, if suppose maybe a person says, I've been kept in a lot of, like I've been given a lot of bad treatment. Another very important thing, nowadays you'll very often hear about the violence against women in the workplace. Okay, heard of it? You'll and how many, I'm sure all the ladies here know there is a cell here, women's protection cell, right? So like this, every organization is expected to have a mechanism. What is the mechanism that we have here? You can go and tell in confidence to the teacher, to some faculty member, I guess, and that is that is going to be that is going to have a record, like they have a protocol to follow. Like for instance in L&T also, when this came, they started the women's protection cell. So they have protocols, like there will be a committee of members, and then they were given special training. The committee members were given special training as to how to address sensitive issues, like the person's name should not come out, but the problem has to be addressed. Okay, so these sort of things are also part of your labor laws. These are also part of your labor laws. So if you go into an organization, you will be required. You cannot say I was unaware that you can just do whatever you like. You cannot do it. Okay, and labor laws also have protection. Like for example, your PF, whatever PF is there, it can be kept aside if the employee is behaving in a rowdy manner. If suppose the employee goes and throws and breaks stuff, he starts violence inside the premises, and it is documented, it is proved. Okay, the punishment is also very strict. So the labor laws work both ways. It also says the management, you do all this for the laborer. It also gives a mechanism to say to the laborer, please do not go and do whatever you like. There are certain boundaries within which you should work. Okay. So these are some of the labor laws. Okay, industrial relationship, like the the Worker Union Act and stuff like this. Wages, Minimum Wages Act, for instance, that's an example. Working hours, conditions of service and employment. This is a very important thing. Like every employee should have the necessary PPE, that is personal protection equipment, so that they work in a safe way. Okay, and also how many hours you can make them work, all that is regulated. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, in the estates, okay, in the estates alone, children are allowed to work, and that too the hours are clearly mentioned, how many hours a child can be allowed to work in an estate. Okay, in certain conditions alone they are allowed to do it. So there are rules both given by the center as well as the state, which govern all of this. And of course here it is equality and empowerment of women. Okay, so if you look at organizations now, many of the organizations are mostly what happens is, when a woman goes on a maternity leave, that is considered as a big drawback. Okay, so 1 year or 1.5 years experience is going, so they'll immediately start to discount a lot of things. And one of the things which is being very highly brought out is that there are no women CEOs at very high levels. Okay, probably ICICI Bank has a woman CEO, and L&T board, they were searching, okay, how to get a woman on board. So stuff like this happened. So now so now they are bringing in reservations that at this level, certain number of women have to be occupying positions. Okay, so now there is a lot of gender sensitivity activities being taking place in every area of the work front. Okay, and I don't know if you know, in Delhi, women are allowed to drive. That even odd number doesn't apply for women. You know that? Okay, so anyway, that's beside the. But I'm just telling, like, how society is now changing the focus from before. And again, the deprived and disadvantaged sections of society are given specific preferences. And in this light, sometimes, on a very personal note, I find that reservation is being misused, and this is a little sad in my personal view. But if the essence of it is seen, okay, the real essence of it is seen, it is very good that everybody is given an equal opportunity to raise the standard of living. Okay, see, one more thing you may have come across recently. A very sad thing happens in many of the metropolitan cities. There is manual scavenging of manholes. I don't know how many of you have seen it, but it is very sad. Okay, people have to go into manholes. Okay, so this has been now abolished by law. You cannot, as an engineer, you cannot send a man into a manhole. Okay, so this is what I mean by saying that deprived and disadvantaged sections of the society are also taken care by labor laws. Okay, some things we cannot just do it. Okay. Now have a look at this video on labor, how they are doing it differently.
Mumbai, the city of dreams awakens to another day. Thousands of workers on thousands of construction sites across the metropolis don their hard hats and set off to work. In deep pits or at dizzying heights, they toil on till the end of the workday. Their meager earnings are sent to families in the distant villages they have left in search of work.
In a village, some people are now free from their regular crops and all, and they are planning, they are thinking, oh, this is idle time, what to do? Let us go to Delhi or Mumbai and do some work, earn some money, because they need cash also. So they start from there, and then they look for some sites, they go there, inquire, and they are recruited either by contractor, by subcontractor, by builder, and they start work. But they always depart in a group. They will also go back in a group.
Construction labor is treated as the worst, gets the worst treatment of all labor. Because of the nature of their job, they're migrant workers. Their jobs are not permanent. They don't stick around in one location. It's specific to a project. They work for a few months. They're not treated well.
If immigration doesn't take place, the need of laborers for different industries are so huge that will not be catered, and that industries will shut off.
They are 2.5 millions. Out of that, 90% of them probably are migrants. They do not have ration card. They can't even open bank accounts because they don't have residential proof. Health structure is not even reaching out to them. They are not consuming anything. Whatever they are getting is the worst quality. They do not travel by the trains. They do not travel by local buses. They are not clogging the roads. They are actually building the city.
India's rapidly growing cities are being built by hundreds of thousands of migrant labor. The vital questions of proper infrastructure and facilities loom large, and the choices made by each individual project become critically important.
I felt that let's do what the Indian labor wants, but let's do it in an organized manner.
Palais Royal has set a benchmark here with the highest standards in labor welfare.
We have had probably one of the largest concentration of workforce in one construction site. We had over 4,000 people at peak. Of course, it requires a lot of effort to make sure that it's a fighting fit force.
Hailing from across the nation, speaking his own tongue, every worker has a story.
पनवेल में किए, खारघर में किए, कमोठा में किए, उधर काम किया तो उधर इतना अच्छा नहीं लगा। श्री राम में आके घुसे तो इधर बहुत अच्छा, सुरक्षा बहुत अच्छा है। पानी ऊनी का, खाने पीने का, काम का बहुत अच्छा सुविधा है इधर। कहाँ से कोई पंजाब का है, कोई दिल्ली का है, कोई हरियाणा का है, कोई उड़ीसा का है। एक ही साथ में दोस्त मिल रहा है कि काम हो रहा है, बस वही काम। जैसे सब हिंदी बोलता है, अलग-अलग सब है, लेकिन सब हिंदी बोलता है।
Most fundamental thing, of course, is happiness. Happy workmen put a lot of good wishes, a lot of affection, love, good luck into their work, and that is bound to pay off.
Right. I really liked this video because it brought out what what a good work site can do. There are a lot of sad things that's happening, and most of you know it. I don't know how many of you close your eyes to it. Okay, but this was a refreshingly different approach by an organization to take care of its members. Okay, so I really wish that those of you are able to do something like that, you can try it. Probably like a happy workforce is going to give you a very good quality at the end. So please remember that the labor rules are there. You can do just the minimum so that you escape punishment, or you can probably go ahead and do the way these people are doing. Anyway, I'm not wanting to mention uh, organization. Okay, Sriram. Okay, that's that thing. Organization. I'm very impressed with the way they have handled their labor force. Then other thing is, yeah, please grade the assignments, those of you who have not done it. And yeah, we'll give you also the venue of the next lecture, which it will be updated on your student login as far as possible, at least 1 or 2 days in advance. And how do you find this venue? Okay, we will see whether we can just restrict ourselves to probably the few galleries over here. Anyway, thanks. But sorry, quiz is yeah, today at 9. But anyway, I have one more. Yesterday evening, all of you started to run away before the video was completed. One video I wanted you guys to watch. What a person is going to do as a construction manager. See the growth or how this man grew up. Sorry, this is another one. Yes.
Construction management as a whole is just managing the overall process of it, from project development, where the owner's deciding what they want to build, and then we're there through the duration of construction. It's unique in that we deal with the design team, which is composed of architects and engineers, and then we also deal with the subcontractors.
It's kind of an orchestra that we kind of try to conduct to make sure everybody's kind of on the same page.
The key responsibilities that we have as construction managers are making sure the project's delivered on time and on budget. In the company, we tend to differentiate into either project engineers or project superintendents. Project engineers basically work on the paperwork side of the business.
I'm tracking everything for the owner on paper. So if they didn't have me, then we wouldn't be able to track the proper materials or that the architect has specified are on site. Any of the questions that the contractors have, I make sure that the architect's answering them.
The superintendent side, they're the ones that are actually out in the field, coordinating with the field staff.
Contractors come out here and they're getting ready to put it in, and if they're confused, it's our job to make sure that any questions that they have are clarified.
The architect communicates to us what he wants, we communicate that to the subcontractor, and then any questions in between, we're solving those problems or going back to the design team saying, hey, that can't work. I enjoyed math and science, and I loved building things, just having a hands-on type of approach. And construction management was the thing that kind of tied all those together.
Nothing stays the same. It's always moving, very dynamic.
I remember when I was little, I used to stare at houses and say, how is that built? And just the unique ways that buildings are built.
Well, the construction industry as a whole is driven through STEM. Science, we're dealing with physics, the way different loads work with gravity. On technology, the industry is really getting technology driven, utilizing 3D modeling software. Engineering-wise, we use it on a daily basis. Math, we use measurements all the time, calculating square footage, yardage, volume, area. For life in general, I think any type of STEM curriculum or STEM course is beneficial for your life.
I went to the University of Cincinnati. I started out in architectural engineering and decided that I liked more of the building and management side versus the design side.
Through school, you learn the general trades, different mechanical systems, electrical, plumbing. You just have a general knowledge, not diving into the specifics too much.
Through co-ops and my opportunities to work with Turner Construction Company, I was able to get hired full-time because of the learning experiences that I gained working for Turner. And a co-op is actually a learning opportunity. Instead of the classroom, you actually go to the job sites, you go to work on a daily basis, and they pay you.
So I started working and co-oping in construction companies and ended up with Turner.
Construction kind of has that connotation of dirty, hands-on labor work, but it's a business.
I came to work for Turner straight out of school as a field engineer. I actually worked on a job site day to day with the trade contractors, coordinating the work that went in place. I also had roles as what I would call project engineer, doing all the paperwork. From there I moved on to leadership roles on large projects. I was the project manager of a $100 million hospital expansion.
A typical project would last between 18 to 24 months, which offers you a quick turnaround time, if you think about it, of a project. So you're seeing, in the life of your career, a bunch of different projects that you've been involved in. When I started at Turner, I was a field engineer, which means you're just out assisting the superintendent, primarily focused on maybe one or two trades, maybe watching the concrete guy. Currently I'm in a cost engineer role where I oversee a portfolio of projects and just focus on the financial or cost aspect of it to make sure every dollar is accounted for. You can see a piece of dirt come into this huge, magnificent, tall structure that'll be there for years to come. You can take family and friends to see it.
Literally, if you miss a day of work, you've missed a lot of work that's been put up.
Our day is spent primarily problem solving.
And that's the fun of our business, is once you get everybody kind of doing the same thing and working on to the right goal and getting that piece in place, there's the real reward in what we do.
It's ever-changing. There's something always evolving, new ways of doing things, new types of materials to work with. It pays well.
We're managing the conversations between the architect, the engineer, and the person who's actually putting it in.
I mean, we're building buildings. I think that's a pretty neat thing to do. It's a huge art project if you were to think of it that way.
I'm extremely important.
I love my job. It's awesome.
So if you had a look at it, did you see the number of women who are there in that project? Huh? Sorry? Okay, and how many men? Okay, you put it your way. I'm not going to have the head count, but anyway, you can take the call as to who was in charge over there. Okay, so it is just that today the industry is opening up much more than what it was, and it depends a lot on the attitude with which you get into the construction site also, or when you get into the business. And this is the video which we had yesterday.
Hello, my name is Gordon and I'm a construction manager working for a large construction company that builds anything from residential developments, commercial office blocks to industrial and retail units. But we don't get involved with main civil engineering projects such as roads and bridges. There are various routes into construction management. I got in by leaving school at 16 and doing my GCSEs and working with a local building contractor who paid for me to go day release for 2 years at college. However, I do know that some of my friends have got A-levels and some of them have studied for a degree in construction management. There are one or two that did a master's degree in construction management using their undergraduate degree in geography. When I first started, I learnt how to read drawings and to mark out the positions of such things as the foundations, the walls, the floors and the roof. I then learnt how to calculate the amount of materials that were needed and then to place the orders for the materials. And I found that studying my college course as well as working, I found the two work very well together. I found it great fun, and in those early years I was earning money as well as studying and getting my qualifications. Ultimately I became a chartered builder, and I've got the letters after my name of MCIOB and the designation of Chartered Construction Manager. The kind of things I get up to now are moving away from assisting construction managers to running projects myself. So I get all the resources for a particular project, be it the materials, be it the plant, the cranes, the various subcontractors, and then I program all their work to make sure that we can build it to quality, to time, and ultimately to budget, and make sure it is done safely. The building I'm currently working on has to be sustainable and innovative, and it's quite challenging but great fun to know that you're going to produce a building that will be sustainable in the future. My next site is a £50 million shopping centre. I'll be one of the construction managers in charge of building a part of it. I'm proud of the buildings I've been involved with. I've made some great friends, and the company I work for is brilliant. There's a strong team spirit, and they've really looked after me. In the future, I hope to work in their international division and to get to work overseas and to see different cultures and countries.
Okay, so this guy, after school at 16, he started his trade in construction. So that means little over, he was just in the 10th standard or so probably. He has finished his ITI probably and has grown up the ladder. Okay, so now how are you guys going to go out? You're going to go out as graduate engineers. So there's a lot of things like, you get a big boost over all of these people. But please remember one thing, all these people, the 4 years you put as in your degree, plus probably the 2 years which you did your post-metric, 6 years of experience and exposure they got over you. Okay, they may really have in fact an edge over you in terms of the completion of the job which has been assigned to them, making them more valuable than most of us. Okay, so what makes you very good, or what makes you different from them, or what makes you desirable? You have got the knowledge of mathematics in a much advanced level. Okay, for example, all the survey work they are doing, they probably just learnt on the job that if you do this, it's going to work. But what are you expected to do? You are expected to know that because of these mathematical relationships, this is possible. Or instead of doing it this way, you can do it better in another way. Okay, it is just that these are expected at least out of you. Okay, you are expected to know that the properties of concrete are based on the materials that go in, the type of cement, the type of aggregate, and all these things play a very important role. So probably even if it's a ready mix concrete, why you are doing something, you are expected to understand better than many of the other people. I'm sure you'll agree with me, am I right? So please remember that you may be asked suddenly to design a very simple support for form work, or maybe there will be a erection going on, a steel beam may have to be kept on which you will be adding other loads. So you may be required to analyze that one. In that case, your simple back of paper, all the shear force and bending moment diagrams what you are drawing, that should be more than sufficient. Okay, so these are the things which probably should make you different from another person. And probably suppose they may be also very good in quantity surveying. Okay, but this is something which probably you will have to know, like how many kilograms of aggregate is required for and cement is required for making a particular quantity of concrete. Okay, so please think about all of these things. These may look very simple. I know you have all got S grades, I don't know, A grades at least in most of these papers. But if you have got these grades, please do not let anybody who probably might not have that much of qualification say, well, you got A grade in such and such, why you don't know this? Okay, so this is something I just wanted to leave a passing thought to all of you guys, and all the best for your cats, and thank you very much.